Hello everybody, we're now doing question 1 on page 99. Right, which of the following lines can be used to access an element from a 2D array? Well, that one can't because it's got a semicolon. That's definitely not right. That is actually a single array and character number 3. That is correct, and that is a 3-dimensional array. So we don't do 3-dimensional arrays, you do that in university. So number C is correct. Write the code to declare 2D Boolean arrays. So in other words, an array with Boolean values in each box. 6 rows and 15 columns, called that. And this is how we write it. A win lose array, 1 to 6 rows, 1 to 15 columns of Boolean. Next one. Oops. A 2D array called A Rainfall has been declared to contain the average rainfall per month for 5 towns. Now, you could either have the rows for the month and the columns for the towns, or you could have the rows for the towns and the columns for the month, and there'll be 12 months. So I used the rows for the towns and the columns for the months, and it would be real data types inside each one. Okay, now write code to use to show the monthly rainfall figures in table form. Well, you could put it in a string grid, or if you want to use #9s and put it in a rich edit. And the method I used was to put it in a rich edit. So we're going to go for r row equals 1 to 5, initialize a string. Then for r col equals 1 to 12, we build that line, S line, that we've initialized for each row. And then we would display it in the string. Now this is if you're not going to build the line. This is if you're going to go put it straight into a string grid. R col, R row, and remember float to string, because the array is an array of real numbers. But this code here is for building a line, and then after you've built the line inside this loop for R col goes 1 to 5, after that then you just put it in the rich edit, and then you go to the next row until we get to all the rows, and for each row we initialize a string to an empty string. Okay, next one. Here's a 2-dimensional array. It's used to record quantities of 4 items for the 4 departments. So the 2D array consists of these, the white areas inside. These are just headings to show what it represents for each row and each column. But we've got to calculate a total for each row. So we're going to calculate the total and store it over here. So for each row we're going to go for r col equals 1 to 4. We're going to calculate a total, then we'll go and put it in column number 5. And then we'll calculate the total 1 to 4 for the columns. R col is 1 to 4 and r row will be 2. And then we'll put that in the column 5 for r row equals 2, and we'll do the same for the others. And this is the code that we would actually use. This is not pseudocode, this is actually Delphi code, isn't it? But the concept is the same. For r row equals 1 to 4, okay, we'll get our sum, initialize it to 0, and then for r col equals 1 to 4, we're going to add up our sum, and then in the array r row, after we've added up over here inside this inside loop, we'll go and put the sum into column number 5. It's the same concept that we're using integers here, and it is an array of integers, I'm assuming. Yep. Right, now they're talking about 3 parallel arrays, A passengers, A stations, A months, to contain the number of passengers that pass through the train station each month. Why can we not use a 2D array instead of 3 parallel arrays? Well, the passengers would be a string, stations and months could be integers, and you can't have different data types in one 2D array, because remember, a 2D array can only have one data type, and passengers would be passenger names. Now, what changes would we make to store data into a 2D array? Now, the book answer says, well, replace the station names with numeric codes, but what about the passenger names? Well, actually, they're assuming that the station names will be strings. I assume that the passengers would be strings as well, but if passengers were numbers and then station names were numbers, we could actually get columns to represent an extra column for the station number, and then the number of passengers for each one inside there. So let's go and modify this to look like what we want it to look like. And so we just need to add more rows over here. Seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So, okay, fine. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this could be the months. And let's say we have like 5 stations. So these could be station numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we could actually maybe have another column here. So this is what, oh, for goodness sake, what am I doing? All right, so we can have another column 13. Column 13 could be our stations, and these could be the, what was the other thing that what was the other station? Passenger stations and months. Okay, stations, yeah, those are the stations. But we were making the column stations, weren't we? We were going to add an extra column and call that stations. So if we did that, stations can represent as rows and listed in the first column. Yeah, that's right. That's right. We could put the stations as rows and list them in the first column. So these would be stations, station numbers. Okay, we can have station number 5, station number 34, station number 6, station number 2, station number 7, say. And the array would be the passenger numbers for each number of passengers that will be in each month. Okay, not FG, sorry. So we could have a whole random number of passengers. So these would be the passengers, and the stations would be this column over here. This would be the months of the year, and the actual, this is a 2D array. So basically we have to have 1 to 5 or as many stations as there are. There could be like 20 or 50 stations, each with its own number. And then we would have an array of integers, and then this one column would be dedicated to the actual station number. So the stations would be given numbers. They won't be the same as the row numbers, but we could use these as month numbers. So that's what we could do, and that makes sense. Yeah, we could make that into a 2D array like that if we just basically used numbers to identify the different stations over there. And that would be the end of that activity. And we'll see you for question 2 on the next one.